Okay, so I'm going to be describing the parts of the brain and their functions. I'll be using this diagram, and then also this diagram to be describing different parts and functions of the brain. So I'm going to start off with the lobes. So here's going to be your frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, temporal lobe. I'll be using this one to be describing your limbic lobe as well. And then this part for also different structures. So starting off with the frontal lobe, which I have right here. This part right here is going to be your precentral gyrus, which is going to be in charge of your movement. And then this circle right here. Yeah, so this is going to be your Broca's area is going to be in here, which is in charge of written and spoken language. Your inferior frontal gyrus is going to be in this same area right here. So that's going to be in charge of like your insight, personality. So the frontal lobe has a little bit of everything. So language, movement, and your personality as well. So moving on onto the parietal lobe next. So in the parietal lobe, that's going to be part of language comprehension. I'll just stick with this one. So language comprehension. And then this part on the other side of the pink, that's going to be your postcentral gyrus, and that's going to be in charge of like your somatosensory cortex. Your angular gyrus is going to be here, and your supramarginal gyrus is going to be like next to it, right about here. That's going to be your inferior parietal lobe, and that's going to be more like in charge of like your language comprehension as well. So that whole area is going to be here where I just circled. Okay. So then your temporal lobe right here. This part right here is going to be on the posterior part of your superior temporal gyrus. That's going to be where your Wernicke's area is, which is also in charge of written and spoken language. Your temporal lobe here. Okay, so I'm going to be using this diagram to be describing the occipital lobe and the limbic lobe. So one of the main parts of the occipital lobe that is going to be important for visual processing, your visual cortex, the calcarine sulcus is going to be right here. Right-here-ish. This diagram kind of stinks a little bit, so if it curved a little, it would be like right there. So right around the back portion of this. So this part of the occipital lobe is going to be part of processing visual information. And then moving on to the limbic lobe, which I'll be using the same diagram. Right here, it's going to be the parohippocampal gyrus. And that is going to be in charge, your parohippocampal gyrus is going to be in charge of like spatial memory. And then this part right here, that I have mine right here, that's going to be your cingulate gyrus. And then your cingulate gyrus is going to be in charge of your emotions. So yeah, your emotions. So it's going to be emotion and behavior. Emotion and behavior is going to be your cingulate gyrus. So I'm going to be using this also. So this is going to be if your brain was cut here and you were looking down up at it. If you were to cut this open right here and take this part out, that'll be your hippocampus, and that's in charge of your memory and learning. And then right here, this is going to be your uncus. And if you just look right here, the uncus is going to be in charge of learning, like not learning, taking in new memory, olfaction. So, and like emotions as well. So that's going to be the 5 lobes and their functions. So we hit a little bit of the 5 different lobes and what they do to the brain.